If you had told me when I bought this van that I would have made as many mods as I have, not only would I not believe you, but I would be frightened. If you're new here, I'm Darian. I'm converting this van, a 2021 Ford Transit high roof. After building two vans and living in one for a couple years, I've learned a lot about what is actually necessary and what is super unnecessary in van life and van building. One of the things I always wanted in my last van build was bump stops, but they seemed super intimidating and I didn't feel comfortable installing them myself, so we just kind of dealt with the rough ride and all of our stuff knocking around. That said, I've been thinking about them a lot this van build, and I've already done several other mods, which has boosted my confidence. On top of that, I found the Timbren SES bump stops, which are only a 30-minute install, no special tools required, and are beginner friendly. So I'm gonna give it a go and take you with me step by step. So this is the box that they came in. This is the Timbren suspension enhancement system specifically for the 2021 Transit high roof. Inside the kit includes obviously the rubber springs. These are a lot larger than the factory springs, which you'll see in a minute. They also come with a 1-inch spacer and the mounting brackets, and then they have two different size bolts depending on if you use the spacer or not. More on that in a minute as well. Here's a quick look at the factory bump stops underneath the van. This is the passenger side, and then this is the driver's side. For reference, these are very dirty. They're actually bright yellow, but you would never know. And you can also see how there's so much space between the rubber spring and the axle. We want to minimize that gap to prevent as much sag as possible. Ideally, you want the spring to be touching the axle. I started by pulling off the old springs before even lifting the van. The rubber spring just pops right off. You can still see the bright yellow at the top of them. Then underneath it is the bracket mounted with a 13mm bolt. We need to remove that as well using a 3/8 socket wrench. It was pretty easy to remove, and then I just repeated this on the driver's side. So this is the factory bump stop. You can see it says Ford on it. And then this is the mounting plate. Here's a close-up of the Timbren. So you can see this one has a washer on the inside. How this one works is you'll send the bolt through the large side of the bump stop, the large hole, get it through the washer on the inside, and then you're gonna send it all the way through the other side. From here, you have your rubber spacer that goes on the end of the bolt like that. And then you have your mounting bracket, just like that. And then from here, you'll use an auto wrench with an extension to fit through the bottom and screw it in. Here you can see the side-by-side. The Timbren bump stops are obviously much larger. This is the point where I need to lift the van, so I'm using my off-road 6-ton bottle jack from eTrailer. I like to use the flat plate to get under a thick area of frame underneath the van. I also chalked my front tires. It's probably wise to use a jack stand if you have one. I don't, and although all of my tires are still on the ground, my intrusive thoughts still make me feel like this is sketchier than it is. I needed a 17mm socket and 3/8 socket wrench to get the Timbren bolts screwed in. You can see here it was a bit tricky to maneuver in this area. It's just such a tight space, but I just had to find the right angle. I really had to hold the ratchet and bump stop exactly in place to get it tightened. I honestly could have used an extension that was maybe a 1/4 inch longer. For reference, I'm using a 3-inch joint extension. And this is the first bump stop in place. You can see I chose to use the 1-inch spacer here. If I hadn't used it, my spring wouldn't remain in contact with the axle, but the Timbren system is designed to reduce sag on constant load vehicles. This means completely eliminating that gap on camper vans to get the dual benefit of reducing sag and cushioning impact. I did use Loctite on the driver's side. I meant to do it on the passenger side as well, and it just slipped my mind. The instructions don't say to do that, but it's definitely wise to add to fight the vibrations when driving and to make sure those bolts don't break loose. The driver's side was a lot easier to get under, and then this is when it was fully installed before the van was lowered. I lowered the van, shimmied my stuff out, and this is what it looks like when the van is lowered. You can see the bump stops are barely touching the axle, which is exactly what we want. Jumping into the video here, it's the next day. I'm gonna take the van for a little test drive just to see how the bump stops perform. I'm really excited. I did hook up my GoPro underneath the van to get a shot of the bump stops and see how they're moving. I don't know that I'm gonna feel a drastic difference because I'm driving on a flat road instead of a bumpy or off-grid road. That said, let's take this thing for a test drive. I've got it ready. Record. Oh my gosh. I already feel a difference. I live at the top of a hill, and just coming down the hill of the driveway, when I hit the road, it was way more stable. Not only was it super stable when I hit the road, but it was quiet. It's actually crazy going from the old ones to these ones, because I don't think I realized how bumpy the last ones were until I had these ones. The drive is so much more smooth. It feels like I'm driving an SUV, like a regular car. Usually going over gutters and little bumps in the road, I feel them and they're so loud, and now I barely feel them and they're so quiet. Well, needless to say, they passed the neighborhood test. I'm actually going on a road trip at the end of this month, so I'm excited to see how the bump stops hold up for that. And I know a performance update would be helpful for some people, so I think next month I'll post an update on the overall drive quality, how they hold up and perform, and all of that good stuff. If you are interested in my specific bump stops, I'll go ahead and link those in the description below. If you want to learn more about the other options that they have, you can head to timbren.com. And if you're not already subscribed, subscribe for more van build installs. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.